If I conferred with our furry friends, man to animal, think of the amazing repartee. If I could walk with the animals, talk with the animals, grunt and squeak and squawk with the animals, and they could talk to me.
Hello and welcome to Pet Watch, a monthly program about the Williamson County Animal Center. Today, my guest is Matt Burnett. Hi, Matt.
Hi, how are you?
I'm great. Matt is with the Canine Experts, and he brought a special guest along today, and this is Rex, a girl named Rex.
Yes.
Okay, as you can tell by her pink bandana, it says Princess. Yeah. So Rex is one of your clients' dogs, and we'll get in a moment, we'll get to what services the Canine Experts provide. But Rex is pretty well behaved, so it's a very good commercial for your business. The Canine Experts are located here in Franklin, out on Old Natchez Trace.
Yep.
Now, tell me overall, what is the mission of your organization?
Absolutely. So the Canine Experts was established to help people who were having issues with dogs where they didn't have a whole lot of time to do the training. But they needed a wide variety of services on a different budget with different schedules so that we could actually take them on site, or if we wanted to do training hand in hand with that person. So we serve every kind of breed, and as you can see, anything from a poodle to a big boxer, and she's still just barely older than a puppy, so we do all kinds of ages as well.
Now, on-site training is at your location.
Absolutely.
It's a farm-type setting.
It is.
Right. I think it's over 20 acres.
Yes, it's. We actually just acquired 4 additional acres. The Southern Trace Farms, the big red barn, we just got permission to start using that, and hopefully that purchase will be wrapped up by the end of the year here. But they've got a 6,000 square foot indoor facility that could be used for weddings, for a horse arena. It's very versatile. And we can kind of hide from the weather with that now.
That's great. So you've added that. You're going to be adding that to your training. So you also have a day school. Tell me, let's start with that. What is the day school?
So the day school is kind of like a daycare with training. So we will take the dog in and we'll give them the same training that they would get in a board and train, except for they don't stay overnight. So it goes from 7 to 7. And that gives people time to drop the dog off before work and then to come after work and not have all kinds of late fees and stuff. So very affordable accommodations for that as well.
So it's like doggy daycare, but you also, during the day, trainers work with your dog.
Absolutely.
So that's very different than just playing all day long and coming home with the same bad habits you went with.
Exactly.
So you're trying to work with the dog specifically during the day while the person's at work or whatever, and teach it new things.
Absolutely. And if we notice anything, we'll rehabilitate different behaviors as well, which is something that not a lot of people know about. So.
Well, everybody wants a puppy, and puppies are not obedient. They're just helpless babies with bad habits, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
So it's up to us to teach a puppy what it needs to know. And you have a puppy obedience program. Absolutely. What is the goal of that program?
So with the puppy obedience program, we like to work through things like barking, nipping, jumping, chewing, all of the things that we have all had puppies that have done those behaviors. And what I love about it is we have our group classes, and then we also have the puppy academy where the puppy would actually stay on site for 2 weeks, and they would learn everything that they would need to know for that. So it's a very diverse offering for every single age group, and we'll start as early as 8 weeks when the puppy is weaned.
Wow.
So we actually just had a boxer puppy named Cooper in recently who was, I think, 9 weeks old. So they can start doing free shaping, which is where we actually don't associate any vocal commands. We just use luring and food motivation and things like that to get the puppy to perform what we want to with body language and gestures without using any words, so that they can start learning the behaviors before we associate a word with it, so that the word doesn't become less powerful.
Right, because if there's if you're constantly saying no, get down, a puppy doesn't really understand
Nope.
the English language. Right.
You got that right.
We think our dogs understand everything we say, but they really don't. And so
Right.
it has to be broken down into, do this. When I say this, here's what happens. The consequence or the reward.
Right.
So you're saying that the reward system works
Absolutely.
with training. So we got the puppy obedience offered in a group setting, and then we've got a basic obedience for maybe an older dog. Okay.
Yep, so that will start typically at about 4 to 6 months. We can start doing all of the basic training. It's not a prerequisite that you go through the puppy training, although for further training it is a prerequisite that you go through the intermediate before you go to the advanced and things like that. So like with Rex, she's been through all kinds of training, and so if I tell her to lay down, then she'll do that, and she's supposed to have a calm state of mind and to be focused on me as her handler. So Rex in particular is a good example because she's been through a variety of our different classes. But the basic training will focus on things like sit, lay down. We don't use the word stay because it's implied they should respect the owner enough to know that when we give a command that they are supposed to stick that command with perfect obedience, and some dogs are still learning that. So,
And you can take an older dog
absolutely,
and teach it things.
We've trained dogs from age, eight, actually a few weeks because we've actually bred dogs, so from birth all the way up to 11 and 12 years old, and so you can teach an old dog new tricks. Contrary to popular opinion.
I understand sit, stay, and that kind of thing, but what about leash commands? What does that mean?
So leash commands would be anything that the dog needs help with leash pressure, with a correction. On-leash obedience would be anything that we need to use the leash as some kind of a tool. So we use timing, techniques, and tools. Those are different things that our trainers actually have to master to work with that dog. And so the dog will get to the point where, and like Rex, where if she knows that I'm touching the leash, then she will listen to the command. And so we won't even give a command if we don't know that the dog is going to perform it, or if we don't have a way to correct if the dog does not perform it, because then the word loses power again. So all of our on-leash commands would be sit, stay, place, off if the dog is jumping up on you, enough, or if the dog is barking. So there's a pretty wide variety of commands that we'll use on leash.
And what are the most common problems that people call you and go, help me? Yeah.
Probably the biggest ones are jumping, counter surfing, barking, general pulling. Pulling is one of the easiest things to correct, and so the first thing that we'll do is when they come on site is that we expect any dog that is out of a domicile of any kind to not be pulling. Even for our own kennel techs who have just started, we want to make sure that they know how to handle a dog. So we'll train. That's the first thing that all of our kennel techs we consider as trainers. Even though they're not going to be actually training a dog, they're teaching the dog what to expect as soon as they leave that threshold.
Right.
And so when people get out of their car, if the dog is pulling, we'll take them back in the car and we'll teach them how to do that. And if we need to use a tool such as a prong collar or a Springer collar to do that, then we'll let the owner let us know if they're comfortable with that, and then that's the first thing that we'll introduce to them, just to make sure that they're comfortable on site, that they understand that the owner is now the handler.
A prong collar is one of the many tools, and it is not painful for an animal. People look at it and they're scared that the animal's being hurt. But as we've seen at the shelter, and I know you're actually a volunteer at our shelter too, prong collars are a necessity sometimes with certain dogs in order to get the message, because traditional collars pull the neck and head in the wrong place, right?
So if you have a puller, for example, a puller is going to cut off circulation, and you'll start seeing that with broken blood vessels in the eyes, red eyes. So a lot of times,
I mean, actually pulling so hard that they're panting,
choking themselves out.
Yeah, they're overexcited, and I've had that experience where the dog's leading me instead of the other way around.
Right.
And if some of our viewers have that problem, that's not the way it works. In reality, the dog on a leash should be by your side.
Correct.
And the leash should be quite short. And we discourage the retractable leads.
Right.
And do you also discourage that with people?
We'll use them every once in a while for dogs that know how to behave on a retractable leash, but the hard thing is that when you use a retractable leash, you can't control the pressure as easily.
Right.
But biggest thing, again, with the prong collars is that a lot of people will switch to a harness because they feel like it is appropriate because it'll keep them from pulling. Well, a harness was actually designed for working dogs to pull. So
Yeah.
a lot of times it could, because of the awkwardness of the weight and everything, it could stop a little bit of pulling, but it's actually going to make them more effective at pulling you if they
Make
see
them
something
stronger.
or
Yes.
exactly.
Yeah, like a
100%.
sled dog wears
Yes.
a harness. So the prong collar is for teaching,
Yes.
and it exerts a steady, even pressure all the way around. It's actually better than a leather collar or a cloth collar. Okay.
Correct.
So I want our viewers to know that that's not any kind of
Exactly.
device that would
Torture
harm an
device or-
animal.
yeah.
Right. So if your dog is, if a person's watching and their dog is pulling them down through the daily walks, it's got to be exhausting, and it's
Absolutely.
dangerous, and you can get pulled down.
Yep.
And it means the dog is not in control.
Exactly.
Right. And the retractable leashes are popular, but people don't watch how far out their dogs are on the leash, and they get into a tussle with another dog.
Absolutely.
And they can't reel them back in as quickly. So
Right.
I think the whole issue is
No.
learning to control your animal. It gives you more peace of mind in your own life, because who wants to go outside with a dog that's pulling and sniffing and, you know, about to pull the owner down at the ground
Yeah.
and going crazy when it sees another dog. So these are all behaviors that can be addressed.
Absolutely.
Now, we talked about basic obedience could be a class that you could go to for an older dog. Now, what about advanced obedience beyond
Absolutely.
that?
So some of our most proud moments are when we're able to hear stories from owners. Like we just bumped into Cooper's mom at Cracker Barrel this last week, and she was just talking about how proud they were that they were able to actually take Cooper off leash out in Leaper's Fork to go shopping, and it is literally an experience that you can't explain, that you can trust your dog and your dog trusts you, and you're able to go out in public. And we actually do use a tool called an e-collar that is it's used for stimulation and just to tickle the dog enough to get their attention. And what's great about that is that they're able to go basically anywhere off leash, whether it's a sporting event or a concert or whatever, and have complete off-leash control of the dog within 2 seconds.
That takes a lot of training, though.
Yes.
That's not for everybody.
Exactly.
And we don't want to just encourage people to go off leash around
Exactly.
town. This is a very highly specialized off leash training. I've seen Courtney, who is one of the founders of of the canine experts. I've seen Courtney, who has extensive training with protection dogs as well. I've seen her shopping around Franklin. It's basically a highly trained dog with hours and hours of
Exactly.
work goes in. Not every dog can do it.
Exactly.
Let's face it.
You'd be surprised how many dogs who they come in and they say, my dog doesn't listen to me, etc., and then they're off leash within 6 weeks and they're doing things that they would never expect them to do. But the biggest thing with off leash, yes, it does take some extra time. The off leash academy takes anywhere from 4 to 6 weeks. Some dogs will master it earlier than others, but typically at 6 weeks we can create a behavior for almost any dog to be able to do that. And the main clientele who are looking for that are people who, number one, they want their dog to behave well with family, with out in public, with let's say that they take the dog to work with them. We have a lot of clients who do that, who will take the job to a construction site or something like that, which obviously you want to make sure that the dog is going to have recall and
Right.
perfect obedience, because it could be dangerous to them and to others. So that's a huge deal for us to be able to have freedom to take the dog anywhere and really incorporate it with your lifestyle.
And it's hard to imagine when you have a dog at home that goes crazy when the doorbell rings.
Yes,
That with training, that dog could become calm
absolutely.
and submissive, which is what animals are supposed to be, right? Submissive
Absolutely.
to the human rather than causing chaos in their lives. You talked about flexibility. So you have the group classes, and then you also offer one-on-one or semi-private. So how does
Yes.
that work?
So the one-on-one classes are we can do those on the facility. We can do those in home. We can even do them in public. If there's a behavior that they're only doing under a certain scenario, we can actually recreate the scenario for that dog to really create an obedience factor where they're learning how to incorporate distance, duration, and distraction. So this is a really good test for Rex,
Right.
because Rex gets to see what it's like to be still for 25 minutes. So we'll incorporate things like that in our training regimen,
Right.
so that the dog is learning all of those skills.
Right, and she's been learning this whole time because
Absolutely.
she's discovered who's out there in the darkness behind the camera. She's
Right.
discovered now another room over there with other people.
Yep.
So she's taking it all in.
Absolutely.
And she's waiting for you at certain points to reinforce or calm her.
Exactly.
Yeah. So it's interesting to watch, and she's been very good as far as being quiet and still.
Right.
Yeah.
And we'll use a little bit of those body language things as well.
What are some of the things you've encountered when you've been called to come to someone's home to deal with a situation? What is that?
So our trainers, and just to clarify, I'm not a trainer, I'm just the general manager, but we have some excellent trainers. Courtney has had prior experience with foreign governments. She's protected the presidents and the Pope. Justin Gordon is actually our training manager, and he was in the military police through the military war dog program and has extensive training and has also protected presidents. And what they do, they will typically be the ones doing in-home visits, but we have a ton of trainers who do that. And a lot of those behaviors are in relation to the barking and listening to the handler and handing off the ownership, so to speak, to the handler from the trainer, because we might be able to create a behavior in the facility, but if we can't make it stick in the home, then your money's not well worth it. So we want to make sure that it will that they can acclimate in the home and stick that behavior at home as well.
And it could be anything from a dog being unnerved by a new baby coming into the house,
Absolutely.
or moving to a new property and there's a dog next door that it just goes crazy over. Or you also alluded to the military training and protection dog side. So let's touch on that for a minute.
Sure.
Because the Canine Experts also has another side. Tell
Yes.
us about that.
So Global Canine, and there's such a cultural difference between the two businesses, but you'll see a lot of overlap. So I'm wearing a Global Canine shirt right now, but a lot of the skills that we teach for our Canine Experts classes, we expect all of our protection dogs to master those perfectly. And the reason for that, and actually Rex is going through some beginning stages of protection training right now, which is why she alerted a second ago, which is why she's very cautious, is that we want her to be calm and cool and collected, but we also want her to be able to activate if she does identify a threat. But we are in control the whole time. So we're not leaving it up to the dog to make decisions about who's a threat and who's not. And we have control to be able to say, no, that's not a threat. So we actually specialize in German Shepherds and Belgian Malinois. And a Belgian Malinois is simply a less hairy, sometimes with a little bit more drive than a German Shepherd. They can be more of a dog to handle. But we've also seen Malinois, and we've got one that's pregnant right now with puppies, and her dog husband Dexter, that are some of the most calm dogs that I've ever met. So we train them for protection in-home, out on the streets, in cars, and we've trained dogs for military and police as well.
And it's not necessarily local, it's worldwide.
Exactly.
That you've done this. And dogs are used commonly for personal pets and protection dogs together.
Right.
So I know that in other countries it may be more prevalent than here to have a protection dog. But you've got a fleet of them over there that basically Courtney and your staff have trained to be highly sensitive to personal safety. And what are the things that those dogs learn?
So the beginning stages are just getting the dog to use whatever drive that they have to protect. And so it's less of being sensitive and more being attentive to the handler. And so they will cue into if they hear something or whatever, they'll check in and look at the handler and say, hey, do I have permission to to engage a threat or whatever it might be. And just as you said, we've got dogs who we've got a big Belgian Malinois named Diesel, who his sister Olivia is a little dog. So and she's part of our Canine Experts program. And so we want them not only to interact together, but he can protect his mom as well if he needs to.
Wow. Are they trained to pick up on commands? So they only respond in a protective mode if you give them a certain command.
Exactly.
Is that kind of like people know of canine squads with police departments?
Yeah.
And they respond to German commands in many cases. So they only respond if they only defend you or attack if you. That's very interesting.
Right, and they will be able to know instinctively, like if someone's approaching you at the grocery store and they're screaming at you and they close the distance, the closing of the distance is actually a trigger for them as well, where they are allowed to engage. What if you're on your cell phone or you're distracted and someone comes up to you and they're yelling, you don't even realize it, and the dog is able to engage at that point.
Right.
So we actually, a huge thing with training with the protection dogs is that people mistake that they are attack dogs, and that is not the case. They're companions, but they are working dogs, and so you have to give them that stimulation. You have to give them. They're not going to require a 3-mile run or walk every day, but you have to stimulate them and help and protect the skills that have been built in as well. But you are right. We have dogs. Courtney's about to fly overseas right now to deliver a dog. Over in Saudi Arabia area. And so we have clients all over the world, and it's fascinating to see the different use cases for those dogs and how they integrate into people's lives and places that they're able to take them just in their everyday life, and they have a personal protection dog at their hip all the time.
Wow. And she will stay there for several days or
Absolutely.
weeks and until she's sure that the people
they're
there
acclimated
understand how the commands work and what the dog does and can't do.
Absolutely.
That is so interesting. Yeah. You talked earlier about the ability, all of us have such busy lives. We think, when can I ever go to dog training? Gosh, it's, an hour for 6 weeks every Wednesday night. But you got a good option for that. And that is to let your dog come over to the Canine Experts property and stay there for several days or weeks.
Absolutely.
And let you do the training.
Absolutely.
Now, what options do you offer there?
So there's a couple different options for what's considered board and train. There's board and train, and then there's also an academy, which could be for 2 weeks all the way up to 6 weeks. There are some clients who have different skill sets that they're looking for. So they'll, let's say it's a 2-week training, but they just want to focus on one skill set, and we can work out customized pricing and tailor fit it to that specific client.
So board and train's a good option if you think, I've been meaning to break this habit with the dog,
Absolutely.
but I don't have time for it. I've had this dog, I've had a trainer come in the house for a 3-hour session and we worked on it, but I don't know how to do the follow through. I don't have the time to do the follow through. And boy, I wish my dog knew all these commands.
Right.
So if anybody can answer those questions, yes, then maybe board and train would be good for them.
Absolutely.
It's hard to leave your dog.
Yeah.
But it comes back a new dog.
Right.
And it comes back doing the things that you wanted it to do all along.
Absolutely.
Yeah. And you've taken dogs from our shelter before that had that drive or had an unnerving kind of protection of food protection or whatever it might be, or and broken those habits. So I think it's good for people to know that they can do that.
Absolutely.
Dogs can change. So you offer that, the training academy where you come and go, or board it, or you offer leave your dog here for so many weeks and then you'll just quote somebody a price
Absolutely.
on that. And you talked about puppy training earlier. What is the AKC Puppy Star program, briefly?
So essentially, the puppy kindergarten and the puppy academy are programs that there's qualifications for the AKC. Once they go through that program, they would pass whatever AKC Puppy Star program with flying colors. So
Is that the ones I've seen on your Facebook page that I graduated?
Yes,
Some of those?
absolutely.
Yeah. That's a fun
You got
place
it.
to watch if people want to look at, you do a cool Facebook page. So I think you've outlined for us what makes the Canine Experts different, and if somebody wants to get in touch with you, what would be the best way to do that.
Yeah, absolutely. So number one, people can feel free to stop by anytime. We prefer that they schedule ahead. They can give us a call. Our number is 615-791-3556, or they can call us at 1-844-8K9-WOOF, W-O-O-F.
Woof. Okay.
We are on Facebook, Instagram, Pinterest, Yelp. We're all out there on
And
social
your
media.
website?
Absolutely. theK9experts.com or globalK9protection.com.
Wow, been interesting talking to you.
You too.
I hope that some of our viewers will see that there are solutions out there, and if they adopt from Williamson County Animal Center, what do you offer them?
Yep, so we will offer them a 10% discount, and then anybody who hears the program this morning and who would like to treat this as a referral through the end of the year, we're also giving 10% discount on training for that.
That's great. You fall in love with your dog, but then you have a responsibility to have a happy life with your dog. Sometimes it takes a little work.
Yes.
And you've got to be willing to put in the work.
That's right.
I want to let our viewers know before we leave today that we have a lot of upcoming events in December. The 3rd through the 9th, you can shop at Dillard's at Cool Springs Mall. The Calvin Klein department will be giving back a portion of the sales from December 3rd through 9th to our shelter. So we thank Dillard's for that and encourage you to do some Christmas shopping over there. Through January 2nd, the Subaru Share the Love program continues, and Subaru will give you the option, if you purchase a Subaru vehicle before January 2nd, to check off a box on your sales contract in which Subaru will give our shelter $250 for each vehicle. So if you're in the market for Subaru, our local partner is Darrell Waltrip Subaru of Franklin on that. On December 9th, we'll be at the Zany Leapers Fort Christmas Parade. Watch for us. We're actually going to have dogs and possibly a cat in the parade this year, and we'll be having an adoption event in the arbor next to Puckett's that day. So come by if you're interested in adopting, and don't miss that parade. It's a lot of fun. December 16th through 24th, anyone who adopts from the shelter is eligible for our Christmas morning delivery. We will help Santa deliver a pet to your home if that's what you'd like. So if you adopt between the 16th and 24th of December, that's available to you. And we're looking for holiday fosters for the Christmas time period of December 22nd through 26th. If you think you might want to give a dog a break over the holidays, let them come live at your house for 4 days, we'd love to have you participate in our foster program. Just call the shelter. And our special hours on December 22nd and 23rd will be 11 to 3. On Christmas Eve, the 24th, will be open from noon to 4, and will be closed December 25th and 26th. Then we'll be open on New Year's Eve from noon to 4 and closed on January 1st. If you have not gotten your pet's rabies shot, we will have our end of the month $10 rabies clinic at the shelter on Saturday, December 30th. The rabies shots are $10 and microchips are only $15, and that is from 9 to 11 on December 30th. The Williamson County Animal Center is located at 106 Claude Yates Drive, right beside Franklin High School, and I encourage you to come by, and I encourage you to look into the Canine Experts. And Matt, thank you for being with us today.
Yes.
And if you have an issue with your pet that you want solved, the Canine Experts will be glad to talk to you about it. I hope you'll join me next month for another episode of Pet Watch.
If I conferred with our furry friends, man to animal, think of the amazing repartee. If I could walk with the animals, talk with the animals, grunt and squeak and squawk with the animals, and they could talk to me.
Looking for me a ham. Red jerseys race over the green. Grim, cute girls on the field shout instructions to each other. Push up, pass, shoot. Strong and intent on the ball. Ponytails bob and swarm. That striker who just ran over a defender, bam, tomorrow will be the middle school homecoming queen. They slide, they fall, they learn to play, to win, to lose. Only the weak or scared stay clean.